Yes, John Anderson. Good evening, John.
Good evening.
Nice to have you here. Also with you is Tony K. Tony, welcome to Rockline.
Hello.
Nice to have you. Trevor Rabin also with us. Trevor, good evening.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing fine. Also Chris Squire. Chris, welcome to Rockline.
Good evening.
And the man with a W for the last name, so he is last alphabetically Alan White, the drummer. Alan, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
First thing I want to ask, and this is not directed at anyone in particular, but hopefully somebody will pop out with an answer here. This was not a rushed album. In fact, you took quite a bit of time recording it, and I guess you scrapped a lot of material that had been recorded. What was that process, and are you happy with the results?
Yes, we're very happy with the results, and we seem to be selling quite a few albums. And as you said, it did take a long time to record, and we did have a lot of material, but we isolated a lot of stuff out of that and came up with the best thing we could for the album.
Now, the album, that was Alan with the answer there. The album was recorded in 3 locations, in London, Los Angeles, and also in a small town in Italy. Why there, and how was that experience? This is Tony here.
This is Tony. We started the backtracks in a little village in Italy called Caramati, in a castle, 11th century castle, and one of the reasons I think for going over there was that we wanted to record acoustically. We wanted the band to sound as real and live and playing together as possible. And one of the facilities of the castle was many rooms that we could actually play in live.
And a certain sound, I would imagine, with
different
the
sounds.
castle and everything, different sounds. What we're going to start with tonight, most of the material on this new album was written by different members of the band with each other. We're with all 5 members of Yes tonight on Rockline. We head to the telephones now for our first call. It's Don from Sacramento, and he's listening to 93 Rock. Good evening there.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
Hi, Don.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah, I'm listening to 93 Rock. That's what I usually listen to. It's a good station, a good rocker in Sacramento. And they put a lot of Yes on, and that's one thing I like about that station. I've been a Yes fan for a long time, and it goes way back. And one of my big questions, I have 2 little kind of questions here. One is the development or the evolution of your music. I remember from way back, like for instance with Long Distance Runaround, and you had a lot of points brought out in that song, for instance, Melting Behind the Stone and things like that. And I was wondering, in your new album with Big Generator, you also bring out some of those same points. I was wondering, did your music evolve into that, or is this something brand new that you've just brought out?
Hi, this is John. How you doing? Yeah, I think that some of the songs on the album have a kind of a reflection of a lot of what we did in the early part of the 70s and bringing it through in the 80s now. And lyrically, I tend to go into these kind of areas of natural things that sometimes happen to us all, and that's one of the things that I was trying to put on the album lyrically.
There you go, Don. Thank you for your question and for starting us off tonight. We now have a call from London, Ontario. We're going to speak with Neil. He's listening to CFPL FM 96. And Neil, you're on the Rockline with us.
Great. Hi, Alan, John, Tony, Trevor, Chris, and Bob. How you guys doing?
Hi,
Fine.
Hello, Neil.
First of all, I just want to say the new album it's really fantastic. It was really worth the wait.
Thank you.
And first of all, I was wondering if you guys think that you would have been as successful as you were with 90125 if you had kept the name Cinema instead of switching to Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Chris says, yeah, no problem.
But you can't really tell, can you? That whole project, this is Chris speaking, by the way, yeah, I think you know. That whole project, we were supposed to be Cinema, and for a long time it was just Trevor, Tony, Alan and myself who were involved in that. And we did have this conscious effort not really to be Yes while we were making the album. We weren't thinking like let's be Yes so that we didn't have to fall into any traps or any foregone kind of designs that would be like a Yes sound. But what happened at the end of the album was John rejoined us and did the vocals, and I guess if we'd called ourselves Cinema from then on, every interviewer in the world would have said, "Tell me, why did you call yourself Cinema when you're Yes?" So Anyway, no, you're right.
There you are, Neil. And your second question, please.
Okay, I also heard it rumored that one of the reasons Big Generator was held up was because you had recorded side 2 as a sidelong concept piece, and the record company wouldn't let you release it that way. Was that true?
Any truth to it?
No.
That's true.
This is Trevor. In fact, the record company was very good and very patient with us because we did take a long time and went through a lot of changes and evolving situations. And it just took that long to do because of the intensity of the work that went into it.
Now, wait a minute. You're saying one thing, and Chris is saying something else here. I'm going to ask about that.
I wasn't saying. Well, I wasn't saying anything, was I?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Go on, Chris.
No, about the
concept?
album. Well, originally, we did have this vague idea that we wanted to do a kind of a sort of a semi-Sgt. Pepper. Not Sgt. Pepper so much as an Abbey Road thing, where one side had knitted songs on it that flowed through. But as it turned out, the whole album took on a certain flow of its own once we kind of established what we thought would be a good running order. And so... in actual fact, I don't think we ever had any problem from the record company with that idea. It's just that, we ended up taking a long time doing it because, we wanted the whole thing to sound like a band really playing, rather than just doing it in the studio. So there we are.
There you go, Neil. Two sides of the same issue, and actually both the same thing in a certain sense. Thanks for the call tonight. We appreciate it. Let's talk to Greg now in Alpena, Michigan. He's listening to HSB FM 108, and we welcome him to the Rockline. Hi there.
Hi, how you guys doing tonight?
Fine.
Hey, fine.
I was just wondering, with all the great art that came on your albums in the 70s and early 80s, what's the chance of Roger Dean doing any more of the album art or possibly any more stage design?
Well,
That's Tony.
This is Tony speaking.
With a K.
Tony with a K.
Tony with a K.
I think that that when we came to the end of 9125, and we, it was virtually a new band in many respects, and we wanted to get into more of a modern, a modern approach to everything that we did. Musically, graphically, the stage, and whatever, that we decided that to go with someone who was into more of a computerized, futuristic approach to graphic design, and so that's why we came up with a designer who would do that.
There you go, Greg. Thank you for being on tonight, and thank you for your question. Call us again sometime. I guess for the entire show tonight on Rockline. I'm Bob Coburn. Has some concert dates I'm going to mention. We're about to take a call from St. Louis. That is one of the lucky cities named so far for the Yes Tour. Now, these dates are very, very early. It's just a handful that we have. The first date is Omaha, November 14th. Tickets are currently on sale for that concert. Tickets will go on sale this weekend for the following dates. Monday, the 16th of November, Milwaukee. The 17th, Madison, Wisconsin. The 18th, Bloomington, Minnesota. In Des Moines on the 19th. You'll find Yes on the 21st in Detroit, Michigan, the 23rd in St. Louis, and the 25th in Chicago. Those are the dates where tickets will go on sale this weekend. We have some other cities we will announce later on where the band will definitely be playing. And this, I suppose, gentlemen, is a pretty massive North American tour you're about to embark on here, so other dates will follow, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So check with your local Rockline affiliate as the weeks go on, and you'll find out the upcoming dates. Our call from St. Louis is somebody named Jim. He's listening to KC95, and he's on the Rockline. Hi there, Jim.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hi, Jim.
Hey,
Hi, Jim.
Hey, you just made my whole night and probably the rest of the year hearing you coming to St. Louis. That's all I need to know. Great situation. My call primarily is based on your titles for your albums. Obviously, the different types of titles you start out with the uniqueness of the Yes album, going all the way up through Close to the Edge. 90125 was definitely unique, but where did the title for the Big Generator come from?
Well, this is Chris. I don't know if you managed to catch it or not, but we did an hour-long showpiece sort of video that was run on MTV and on Showtime. I don't know whether you have that in your area. But,
and it's available at your local record store.
And on VHS. So the thing is, what happened at the end of it, we added some footage of these old American educational movies, and they were colorized by Charlex people in New York. And one of the sections we used was from this kind of 60s thing of a dad sitting at home with his young daughter and her boyfriend, and he was asking, hey Dad, can we put some music on? And Dad says, sure kids, go ahead, or something like that. And Dad's kind of sitting there in his armchair at the end of the whole piece with the pipe in his mouth saying, the music of big generators. So it's a continuation from that.
So there you go, Jim. Thanks for your call. Enjoy the upcoming concert, and good luck in the World Series against the Minnesota Twins. Yeah. Which resumes tomorrow night. Boy, I'm glad they're not playing tonight, I'll tell you that. Let's take a call now from East Lansing, Michigan. It's Vince. He's listening to WMMQ in Lansing, and we welcome him to the show. Hi, Vince.
Hello. How you doing?
Hi, Vince.
Hi.
First, I'd like to congratulate you on your new album. It's excellent work. I'm sure it'll be a big success.
Thank you.
And I have two questions for you. My first is directed towards John and Chris. I was wondering if, upon forming the group 20 years ago, if you ever expected to be such a long-lasting success. And my second question is for Trevor. You seem to be concerned with the editing on 90125 mostly. On the third track, It Can Happen, you can barely make out a voice dubbed into the first solo. I was wondering what that was all about.
The first question. What was the first question? Hey.
Back to the beginning, did you have any idea that things would turn out the way they had? Was it
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think he just dreamed that things are going to, keep going for a couple of years, and it just, 10 years later, you're thinking, gosh, that took a very short time, and now we're into 20 years later. It's amazing.
It is amazing how
That
that
took
happens.
even shorter.
Feels like just yesterday.
Besides mentioning Chris and John, Tony was one of the original founding members of Yes, too.
Sure.
And the other question for Trevor, do you recall that particular part in that song?
Yeah, I just don't recall what happened with it.
There was some radio
happened?
station.
Yeah, we're talking about the It Can Happen solo. It was actually an overdub of
What's his name?
John Gielgud.
John Gielgud, that's
Yeah,
right.
from The Importance of Being Earnest.
Right.
Yeah,
And we just kind of, mixed it
Mr.
behind
Memory
the
Man
guitar
here.
solo.
It has no significance whatsoever. it can happen. But
So that's the answer.
So that you would ask that question, Vince. Thanks for being on.
Thanks,
We appreciate
Vince.
it. Let's go back to the phones. I'm Bob Coburn. We're with Yes tonight on Rockline, if you haven't figured that out. We go to Philadelphia this time around. Quickly, here are some of the cities where Yes will appear. No ticket information or venue information as of this moment, but here's some of the cities where they will be. Pittsburgh, Richmond, Philadelphia, Hartford, New York, Providence, Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Boston, and Baltimore, the Baltimore area, serving Washington too, of course. We go to Philadelphia now. We're going to talk to Cliff. He is listening to 94 WYSP, and we welcome him to the show. Good evening, Cliff.
How you doing?
You,
What you doing there?
Philadelphia.
How's it going?
Very good.
I was curious. On the new album, there's a Paul DeVilliers that's producing, and I was wondering, where did he come from? And I was curious also. I had a question about the stage. I heard it was an elaborate setting, and I wondered if it was, going to be in the round like he used to do, or if it was going to be a flat stage like the 90125, or, just exactly what the stage he was going to have on it.
Well, this is Trevor speaking. Paul DeVilliers is, he does our live sound and knows the band really well, and we went through a period in the first 8-9 months of the album with Trevor Horn, and kind of grew apart at that point. And Paul became involved at that point, and we had a good time with Paul doing a large portion of it. And as far as the next question, the stage is it is a far more elaborate stage, and we've gone to great lengths to put on a different show to the last time, and the emphasis being on the music.
So there you go, Cliff. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being on tonight. And you, Trevor, produced this album this time around, and I guess Paul did a lot of the mixing with you, where he really came in handy in that aspect of the record.
Well, actually, he became handy prior to that. He didn't mix it. I mixed the album, and he was invaluable prior to that in getting the songs to the point where they were mixable.
And one of his claims to fame is Mr. Mister.
Yeah, he's
both with them.
a great guy.
Excellent.
Thank you, Cliff.
He's mixing them again at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk now to Frank. Frank is in Hollywood, Florida. He's listening to 97 GTR in Miami. And Frank, you're on the Rockline.
How you doing, y'all?
Hey, Miami.
Yeah. I got your new music, and it sounds great on CD. I listen to it all the time.
Good.
Any question, please, Frank?
What's the question?
Yeah, and the question is towards Chris and Alan. I read somewhere that you were to form a group with Jimmy Page called XYZ. Is that true?
Yes, one time we did play with Jimmy, and it was just a period when Yes weren't active as a band, and Chris and myself were playing together, looking to forming a new band. And we played in Jimmy's studio in England with the idea of getting something together. Originally it was going to be called XYZ. But we spent about 6 weeks playing, and we put some tapes down and did some good music with everybody pretty much writing. And it sounded good at the time, but a little later things fell apart, and we met Trevor, and as a result we started working on cinema.
And then Trevor fell apart. No.
Sorry, but then Tony came
Well,
along.
Trevor played in tune, let's put it that way.
I have a question for Chris about that experience. I heard that you wrote quite a bit of material for that, Chris, and did one of your songs end up being a Firm song with someone else credited as writing it? Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a feeling there was. Could you tell us what song?
I wrote that song.
Oh, Alan. Alan wrote the bridge.
I wrote it.
Of course, Trevor wrote it. You didn't even know him then, but he wrote it.
Yeah.
What song was it?
Do you know? I don't know what they ended up calling it. When it was written as an instrumental, and I think Paul Rogers later added some lyrics to it that and then gave it a title.
I just think they got the tapes mixed up a little bit.
No, probably, yeah. You never know. Jimmy probably said, "There's gonna be bag somewhere." Oh, here it is.
Thanks, Frank. We're going to move on now. We're going to talk to Jarrett in Baltimore, and Jarrett is listening to 98 Rock. Good evening there.
How's it going?
Fine.
Good.
Fine. Really good.
First off, I want to congratulate you on another great album,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and I'm really looking forward to the next 20 years of Jazz.
I don't know if I.
And what else tonight, Jarrett?
I'd like to direct this question to John Anderson.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Fine, thanks.
That's good. I would like to know if you had any vocal training.
Well, for many years, at a very, very early age, I used to sing in the school choir. So I just enjoyed singing through school days. And then when I left school, I just sort of joined a group. I think I was about 18, and I just wanted to sing so much. And, after so many years of singing most every day, you just develop your sort of style. So I really didn't, I went in for voice trainings just once, and I didn't enjoy it too much. So I just decided to sing every day, which I still do,
It's too much like work, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Jared, for being on tonight. We're going to move on now and let Rosie have a turn. She is in New York listening to 92.3 K-Rock, and we welcome her to the Rockline. Hi, Rosie.
Hi.
Hi. New York, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I want to say happy birthday to John early. Happy
Thank
birthday.
you very much.
And, you guys are really gorgeous.
That's a first.
And I just want to...
That is a first. Thank you, Rosie. What's your phone number?
yeah, absolutely.
ID.
I just want to know, for Trev here, hello.
Hi.
I just want to know if you found it hard to play Steve Howe's, yes, I guess,
Steve Howe's licks.
yeah.
Well, as I actually mentioned earlier, the difficult thing was not actually playing learning the parts, and the difficult thing was trying to find a way of interpreting them in a different way, in an individual way that was a little different to the way it was. So no.
So no, yeah, there you go, Rosie. Thanks for being on tonight. And by the way, John's birthday is the 25th of this month, and we too wish him John's birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, John.
Happy birthday, John. Happy birthday.
How old are you, John?
Tony, you sure you want to ask that question?
We now take a call from Chris. He's in Stockton, California, listening to 95 KDJK in Modesto. Chris, you're on the Rockline with us.
Hello, yes.
Hey.
Hello, Chris.
Hey.
I'd like to say you guys are the greatest. I've been listening to your tunes for a long time. And Alan, keep jamming on those Ludwigs.
Oh, I will do.
Well, this is my question. On your latest album, Big Generator, the music seems to be more powerful and dynamic with rock and roll connotations. In comparison with your earlier albums, such as Yesterday's and Close to the Edge, I'd just like to know what is your change in musical attitude?
Alan?
Come on, Chris.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think the band, after 90125, the success of it and the direction we were heading in as far as the band being more modern and a little bit more powerful and had that feeling about it, I think we just tried to progress it more to the stage of Big Generator, and I think we achieved it.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, I'm only saying you got a bigger drum kit with a
Slightly
thicker
bigger.
plywood.
Slicker.
Yeah, that heavier sort of sound.
And you've got more strings.
Yeah, more strings. I got. Yeah.
You got more strings. You got more guitars.
I got not as many as Steve.
There you go,
And
Chris.
Tony's got no keyboards, but lots of racks. He's called Rackman.
Rackman. Thanks, Chris, for being on tonight. We're going to move on now and let Judy have a turn. She's in Toronto listening to Q107. Judy, you're on with Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
Judy.
I wanted to say that your new album, I think, is really excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is directed to John. I was wondering how you got involved singing on the Canadian singer Larry Gowan's last album.
Yeah, thank you. I bumped into Larry in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. I was actually recording next door, and just met with him and enjoyed some of the songs that he was doing, and he just asked if I would like to sing some backing vocals, and we got on very, very well, and I really enjoyed singing with his songs, and I really think he's a great artist.
It's just kind of happenstance.
Yeah, it just happens. I was just walking by and I said, hi, what do you do?
Studio.
He said, yeah.
There you go, Judy. Thank you for being on. Let's let Manuel have a turn. He's in Reseda, California, listening to 95.5 KLOS. Good evening.
Hi there.
How you doing, man?
How you doing, you guys?
Ryan.
Good. It's good to hear you guys all together there again.
There.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
Let's see. First of all,
Do you remember them?
song Awaken,
Yeah.
good old stuff.
Yeah,
I was
wonderful.
wondering, what was the closely guided plan? And second
John?
question,
Oh, let's start with that one. Yeah.
A closely guided plan. I don't remember that lyric, but
closely guided plan.
yeah. Awaken was more or
more,
less
Manuel.
sort of an idea musically that, consciously we can awaken to a lot more things that are surrounding us, the planet Earth, and how we can help to make things get better, and that was the idea of the song. It was a great moment in the development of Yes, in terms of a musical approach, and it was sort of very directed to everybody, really, that we can all start looking ahead and making sure that everything's going to work out for everybody.
And number two, please.
Yeah, well, I think that's great how you guys put your lyrics together. I think it's making a great impact on the world. I think it's a good time for them to hear these kind of things. And my second question is if you guys intend on making any more solo albums.
This is Chris, yeah. I intend to make another one this year. Trevor's already got one in the works, and I think Tony Kay is doing a record for cinema, is that true?
Or cinema.
For cinema
Yes,
records?
taken off our
John's
name.
got one in
And
the
John's
one's,
just finished one.
Yeah.
about to.
And then
Well, I
probably
guess
another
I
one
might
after
as
that.
well think about doing one too.
Better get
You doing one, Alan?
Get busy there, Alan. Is that one of the appealing things about Yes, that you can work collectively and you can foray into other areas like that? So
Yeah.
really no restrictions in
It's
that.
very important. I believe that the home is Yes, and that's where we can get together and make music together. But there's also that other side of us, individual attitudes to music and what we want to put forward. And hopefully these are things are coming through again.
So plenty in the offing there, and thank you
yeah.
for your call. We appreciate it, and call us again sometime. And back to the phones we go for the band now, to Gastonia, North Carolina, as we head there this evening. We're going to talk to James. He's listening to 95.7 The Rock in Hickory, Charlotte, North Carolina. James, you're on with Yes.
Trevor,
Hi, James.
I play lead guitar in a local band, and I noticed that you have a really defined style. I was just wondering if there was anyone who influenced you or any particular effect you used that gave you a better sound or helped you to define your style.
Well, I guess with most guitarists, it's important to acknowledge that a lot of people influence you, and I think one important element to consider is the sound of understanding what the sound is and the engineering side of the sound to understand what it is you're doing. And if you want to do something, it's always a good thing to know how to get there rather than just kind of blindly looking for it. So I would say that, you know, having some awareness of the engineering side of records, or even on a live aspect, knowing which are the best amplifiers to use, and specifically for what you want to do, knowing what the best thing would be to do that.
It not only makes you a better player, it makes you more valuable to the band, too. And, I mean, on this album, you produced, you engineered, you mixed, you played guitar, you played keyboards, and you sang some vocals, too. Did you bring sandwiches in while you were at it? I mean, that's virtually everything.
Nice tuna fish you make.
do a good tuna fish.
So it does really make you much more important to the band and makes you a more enticing package. Thank you, James, for your call. Not
I've
to
never
be
heard him
personalized
called an enticing package before.
Thank you, James. We're going to move on now to Bloomfield, New Jersey, as we talk to Yvonne. She's listening to 92.3 K-Rock in New York. And Yvonne, you're on with Yes.
Hi. I love you guys to death, and I'm so glad I got through. I have a question for Trevor, though. I heard you're coming out with a solo album. Is this true, and when can we expect it in the stores? Because I love the Wolf album so much. It's my favorite.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's obviously with this album taking so long, it's kind of put back the release of my album, but as you know, as soon as time allows, I'll be getting into it. I've written most of the material and looking forward to doing it. So I hope you like it when it does come out.
And I guess being on the road will stop that even further. It'll be a while before you get back into the studio to do that. There you go, Yvonne. Thanks for being on tonight. Let's let Jim have his turn now. He's in Hartford, Connecticut, listening to 106 HCN. Jim, you're on with Yes.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi. I have two questions. First, in the new song, I'm Running, the first word is Jacaranda, and could you tell me what this means?
Well, Jack, the funny thing about that, this is Trevor speaking, when that part of the song came about, I was just trying to put together the melody and the whole thing. Somehow I sang Jacaranda.
It's a guy you know, isn't it, Jack?
Jack? Yeah, but Aranda was another thing. But Jacaranda is basically a tree, and it's the tree of knowledge. And when John came into, to sing it, and he rewrote some of the lyrics that I'd got into, he kind of picked up on that and just explored it a little further.
Is it that famous tree with all the purple flowers?
Yeah,
purple flowers.
Beautiful tree.
Yeah, very few leaves and purple flowers.
Right.
Yeah, very pretty tree.
South American kind of version.
We're back to the telephones now. I'm Bob Coburn with all 5 members of Yes. We head to Cleveland now. We're going to talk to Alex, a listener of WMMS. Alex, you're on Rockline.
Hey, Bob, thanks a lot. How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Very good.
How's Cleveland tonight?
Pardon me?
How's Cleveland tonight?
City of Lights.
Fantastic, and we're dying to see you guys come out here. You got to come out and play for us.
I'm sure you'll come to Cleveland on this
No,
tour.
we have no.
No, we can't keep talking about Cleveland.
We
I'll
have-
be told by
I want to tell you, the new album is absolutely fantastic, and I've got a question for you. I wanted to address it to Tony K. Tony, with all the new keyboards that have come out on the market in the last couple of years, I was wondering which you used most on Big Generator. What happened to be your favorite?
Goody, a question. What is my favorite keyboard on the whole album?
Yeah.
Well, there are actually a lot of keyboards used. In London, for instance, there was a full-blown synclavier that I got to use fairly extensively. And so that was a kind of an interesting thing that really developed into something that of course, now you don't really have to have a synclavier to reproduce it. But the keyboards have evolved quite a lot in the last 2 years, so there's a lot of scope. And I'm using a lot of modules, as the guys will attest, that are in lots of racks. And there's a lot of Korg equipment and Roland pianos and all kinds of stuff.
So all kinds of goodies there to choose from. Alex, thanks for the call and enjoy the concert. You got to be playing Cleveland. I don't think I announced that earlier, but
I'm sure
it's a
we will
must.
do.
Yeah.
It's one of our favorite cities.
Thanks, Alex. Let's head now to Tampa, Florida. Let's talk to Christine, listening to 95 YNF. Hi, Christine.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I just can't wait to see you guys. I have to be your most devoted fan. And our Tampa Bay radio station is waiting to play you guys in a game of softball.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, very
And I only have
important.
2 questions
I remember the last one.
for Trevor.
Okay.
Okay, the first question is, on the Def Leppard Pyromania album, Trevor's listed under the What a Guy list. What did you contribute to this album?
Well,
Olga.
All the guitar. Oh, no.
it's kind of a secret, but basically, I just kind of helped with some of the equipment and getting certain sounds and things.
I
And
played on that album too,
Tony played on that album, and they're a great bunch of guys, and that's about it.
And they will be on Rockline within a couple of weeks, so listen for that. And question number 2, please, Christine.
Okay, question number 2 is about the Rabbit album Boys Will Be Boys. Who is Godfrey Rabin that plays the solo violin? Is he any relation to you?
Yeah, that's my father. He's a great violinist, and in fact, he played on a lot of my solo stuff and previous solo stuff, and he still plays a lot. He's great.
So music was encouraged in your house when you were growing up, obviously.
Yeah.
There you are, Christine. Thanks for being on tonight. A couple of great questions, and maybe they'll take you on a little softball down there at YNF. Let's talk now to Scott in Chatham, Ontario, listening to WRIF in Detroit. Scott, you're on the Rockline.
Hi, guys. Great to hear from you
Hi,
tonight.
Scott.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
John?
Getting better all the time.
Oh, John?
Yes,
I'm
sure.
your greatest fan. I think you have the best voice in the world for practically any form of music. You're my idol.
Thanks, Scott. Really.
Okay, listen, I've always been intrigued by the topographic era of Yes's career from, let's say, late 73 to mid-77. I was wondering if you, John, or Chris, who collaborated on the writing of enjoyable pieces such as Revealing Science of God and The Gates of Delirium, and even Awaken, could tell me what influenced the band then in 73 to move in such a unique direction.
Well, this is Chris. I think at that time we just done Close to the Edge and we'd experimented with doing pieces of music that were in the extended mode, like the whole side of an album. And John had come up with this concept from certain books he'd been reading at the time, yogi books or yoga books, whatever they're called, and
Yogi Bear.
and
Yogi Bear.
and so we launched ourselves into this Meisterwerk, which was a unique experience, and we certainly put a lot into it. It was kind of very early days for a band to try anything that daring. And we went on tour and did it, which was kind of a strange experience because we almost moved into a kind of a theatrical, operatic type mood, which was a different thing in those days, on the rock and roll stage. And so it's something that I think is part of our history, and we'll always be remembered for it in one way or another.
There you are, Scott. Thanks. John, were you going to add something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the same thing, that by being able to try these kind of longer pieces of music and base them on sort of a self-realization of your potential, as a human being, then as an artist, as a musician, that we're still together in a lot of ways. I think that having gone through that experience, it just enabled us to realize the potential of the band as a group of musicians, that there was a future for the music that we were trying at that time, and that through the times of Awaken and the Gates of Delirium, as you mentioned, it's something that's we've grown up inside of that energy, and I think that comes through in the 90125 album and the new album too. I think that we just by going through that energy and that emotion, which is a lot of risks that are taken when you try these things, that maybe it gives you that stance to be able to carry on, and people accept you on many different levels.
A series of epic songs, adventuresome to say the least. And thank you for your call, Scott. We appreciate it. It's Dave's turn in Edmonton, Alberta. He's listening to K97. And Dave, you're on with Yes.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Hi, Dave.
I've been your idol for about
10 years now, and I'm 17, so that should say something.
Wow.
I'd like to know what made you film 90125 in Edmonton in 1983 for the videos.
Actually, the Edmonton was one of the first gigs that we ever played in the Americas.
It was actually the first.
Really? Back to the really early days of
it was the first show we ever played in North America or Canada on our very first tour. And that's got nothing to do with why we actually did the film.
I was going to say, you had an affinity for the city because of that, and
yeah,
no,
well,
not the
it
case.
evolved to that point where we were going to do a show, and then we wanted to put it down on film.
Actually had something to do with the tax structure of one.
Now we're down to the bottom line here.
Truthfully, we wanted to get the best video out of the tour, and as it happened that Edmonton, I think, was the penultimate show on the tour. I think we only did one more show after that, somewhere in Seattle or Portland or something like that. So we wanted to have the show at its best possible condition, and when we did the show there, it was after 150 dates, and so we enjoyed it very much, and there it was.
That's why they have the best
in your stalls.
Rent a crowd.
The renter crowd.
VHS.
One phone call and you can fill auditorium. Thanks, Dave, for the call. We appreciate it. We're going to go back to the telephones now to Memphis, Tennessee, this time as we talk to Carl. Carl is listening to 103 FM. Good evening there.
Good evening. How's it going? Trevor Rabin.
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good. Listen, I've written a letter to Yes via Atlantic Records, and I just request that y'all read it, and I'd really appreciate that. And I have too many questions for you, and there's not enough time, but I do have one that I can think of, and it's what does Shay know in the song Love Will Find a Way?
Well, Shay Nu means I eat at home, basically. And but what it really comes from is Nu is one of the guys who works with the band, and during rehearsals he used to
eat.
And it was part of that, but basically it's just a statement of I eat at home, which has to do with the simplicity of what the love song is.
There you go, Carl, and thank you for being on, and look for a letter from Carl from Memphis. He wants you to read that.
With or without the screen.
Long-distance information.
Let's talk to Tom now in Calgary, Alberta. He's listening to Kick FM 107. Tom, you're on with Yes.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Hi,
Tom.
Hi, John Anderson.
Hi there.
I can't believe it.
Calgary.
I am a huge, huge fan.
6'7", right?
Anyways, I got two real quick questions. The first one is, are you going to be doing any material off Going for the One on your new tour? Because I believe that's your best album. And,
no?
But,
that's Chris.
To be succinct, no.
Okay. And
what do you like about that album?
For John Anderson is, when you're recording albums these days, what's your role, John, in the studio compared to, say, 10 years ago for, like, say, Going for the One or Tomato?
I think that the main thing that happens now is that the guys get together and work out on the songs, and I come in later on when they've been formulated and help with the vocal structure, the harmonies and lyrics, obviously, and choruses. Sometimes the track is so alive and so attractive, I just start singing these choruses and things, and it just seems to link in very well. So my role is always sort of preceding the basic arrangements and the way the band put it together.
There you go, Tom. Thank you for your call. We're going to move on quickly. We have time for one more. It's Steve in Gainesville, Florida, listening to Rock 104. Steve, you're on.
How you doing, guys?
Hi. We're about out of time, Steve.
Gainesville Green.
Yes, I'd just like to know if, over the course of the 20 years you've been together, if there has been any change in the goals of the group.
Is that for John or this is Chris?
For whomever.
Okay, very quickly. No, we're just right here to
bunch of guys.
Carry right on,
bunch of
just
guys
like a group.
On the road.
On the road. Forging forward. Cutting through everything, and like just getting to the point. And there we are. Bye.
There you go, Steve. Thanks for your call. And thanks for listening, calling, and writing. Our address, should you not have it, P.O. Box 4383, Hollywood, California, 90078.